Mrs. Daly.
We're getting there, all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the ZS symbol of perfect friendships among the United Cultures.
All right, I will call us to order at 5:31 p.m. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call please.
Dr. Tremble?
Here.
Ms. Hunt Daly?
I don't see it yet.
Mr. Hadamio?
Here.
Mr. Ortiz?
Here.
Mrs. Lee?
Present, we do indeed have a quorum. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? If so, what? Yes, there is one under announcements. The next board meeting is actually December 17th, not 19th. Other than that, I have no changes. Board members, anything else? Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation, sir?
I recommend that we approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. And is there a second, please? Dr. Guy is gonna second for us as he's chewing his dinner. All right, it has been moved by Mr. Ortiz and seconded by Dr. Archambault to approve the agenda as amended, changing the date under announcements to December 17th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Ashambo?
Yes.
Mr. Hadamio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, the motion carries. Next will be adoption of minutes for November 19th, 2024. Are there any changes to the minutes? Why, yes, there are. Under presentations B, it says Special Education Department update, Janice that Griego, one of the things. I believe that should say Jennifer Griego.
Okay.
And other than that, that was all I found. Anything else, board members? Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation, sir?
I recommend that we approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, sir. Board members, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? And that will be just changing Jennifer Griego in presentation B.
I'll move to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mr. Ortiz and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the minutes as amended. Again, changing that one thing in presentation B. Is there any discussion, board members? Anything further? All right, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Ashambo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Hadamio?
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, the motion carries. Mr. Widener, recognitions, sir.
At this time, citizens to address the board.
It should be recognitions and then citizens, I thought.
Okay. So recognitions first? Okay.
That's what I have on my agenda.
Okay, perfect. I have asked Mr. Jaramillo from Grants High School to come and join us. He is going to give us an update on the fall sports from.
Mr. Weiner, you are correct.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened on my copy of my agenda. My apologies. We do have, my understanding is citizens to address the board. I apologize for that. That is my mistake. Apologies. So. let
10
me-
lashes.
I'll take them. I'll take them.
Just kidding.
Oh, so Mrs. Sandoval, are there citizens to address the board?
Yes, there are.
And who is addressing the board, please?
We have Rochelle Chavez and Jolene Martinez. And we also have Lieutenant Governor Wendell Chino.
All right. I will briefly read a portion of our public comment, citizens to address the board. And I believe these people would have acknowledged that they read that as well. And it is, if you intend on making public comment, please read our related policy and ensure that your comment complies with that policy. And you understand and acknowledge that individual oral presentations will be limited to a time set by the board president unless extended by the board president. If a large number of individuals have requested to participate in the public comment section, the board, pardon me, I just skipped section of the meeting. The board president may limit oral presentation to 2 minutes and may designate a facilitator. You understand and acknowledge that the board meeting is a limited public forum in which your comments are limited to the subject matter of the items listed on the board meeting agenda for this meeting. The board will not accept any public comment related to matters outside the agenda for this board meeting. In addition, you shall be solely responsible for the content of your comments. The Board of Education neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by you during the public comment section of the board meeting. Public comment which unduly disrupts the orderly progress of any board meeting is or is contrary to the decorum and order of the meeting, or the use of language in public comment containing personally abusive epithets toward another, which when addressed to the ordinary citizen are, as a matter of common knowledge, inherently likely to provoke a violent reaction, will be terminated by the board president. In addition, you understand and acknowledge that the Board of Education and the board may employ other and further reasonable controls and limitations to ensure the orderly and effective conduct of school district business during the board meeting. I will follow that with one more thing, and that is the Board of Education shall not make comment, endorse, sanction, or act upon any comments made during the public comment section of the open board meetings in which the subject matter of comment was not contained within the agenda. If comment is made on an agenda item, the board may not interact with the person making comment, including commenting on the substance of the individual's statement or request. All of that being said, public to address the board, we invite you forward.
And there's just one here.
Wendell Chino.
And that's just Lieutenant Governor Wendell Chino. Sir, if you would like to come and address the board, we would be happy to hear you, sir. And just for your clarity, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's see. Good evening, Francisco County School Board President Lee, board members, Superintendent Widener. My name is Wendell Chino, and I am the first Lieutenant Governor for the Republic of Wacom. I'm here tonight to voice my concerns on the 3 agenda topics. I know I only have 3 minutes to talk, so I would try to get through my talking points quickly. 5 minutes. Number 1, tribal consultation. Grants-Paula County School Superintendent failure to consult with the Pueblo of Acoma in a timely manner. The excuse that his administrative team's schedule is quite full for December and is looking for tribal consultation till January of next year is unacceptable. That his equity, diversity and inclusion coordinator, along with several of his directors, will be attending the NASIS conference and will be unavailable. Additionally, that the Grants-Paula County School Board President Francis Lee will not be available on that date as well. Why did the superintendent agree to scheduling the December 10th tribal consultation if he already knew that he was attending the conference in advance? The absence or presence of the board president or certain staff is also not an excuse to delay the tribal consultation. Number 2, IPAC. The unacceptable delay in organizing the IPAC in a timely manner. There have been too many days spent arguing about who is right or wrong. There are bylaws put in place, and that is what should be followed. Remember, the IPAC is to help our Native American students by the parents of children that attend Grants-Paula County schools. It is not to criticize each other if they are not performing to whose expectations. I talk about bringing in lawyers into the IPAC meeting or certain people to follow the Robert's Rule of Order the right way is absurd. Pueblo of Acoma requests documentation that shows that the current Title VI application was approved at a duly called IPAC meeting last spring. Number 3, IPP, Indian Policies and Procedure. There is no evidence that the IPP has been implemented, or at least it has not been presented to us. That is why the Pueblo of Acoma is one in tribal consultation to go over what I have presented. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to speak and voice our concerns.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor Chino. We appreciate you being here. And that's all for citizens, correct? Thank you. Now, Mr. Weidner, recognition.
I've asked Mr. Jaramillo, who is the athletic director and assistant principal at Grants High School, to come and update us on the fall sports from Grants High School. We're still waiting on some results to find out who some of the superstars are, but Mr. Jaramillo does have information for us and will fill us in on their seasons.
Thank you. Again, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Widener, thank you for the opportunity for us to share out our progress at Grants High School with athletics. So it is recognition, so we want to recognize all of our fall sports that took place. Starting with volleyball, our volleyball program had a strong season again this year. We're continuing to making progress every year. We're getting better and competing with some of those tough teams in the 4A. And so our coaching staff, our kids and stuff are working hard to be able to compete at that level. With volleyball, unfortunately, our head coach did resign at the end of the year. And so we are looking to hire a coach, again, that is willing to take us in that positive direction and establish that culture within that volleyball program. In golf, as you may or may not be aware, we have a split season in golf, so it starts in spring, fall, and then it continues in spring. Last year we had a little rough start getting going in the fall. This year we were able to attend several golf tournaments, and so our kids are out there, they're getting reps at their swings and stuff, so we look forward to a positive spring season with golf. Cross country, this year we had quite a bit of kids out for cross-country this year. And we were able to host our district cross-country meet, which only happens every 4 years. So it was nice to have 2 cross-country meets back-to-back this year. And at our district cross-country meet, both the boys and the girls took 3rd place, and they were able to, both teams were able to qualify their entire team to attend the state meet, which was a first in a while as from what I can remember for the cross-country team. Lastly, I want to talk about football. Football had another successful season. Last year was a successful season. They went to the first round of the state playoffs and lost. This year, they again had a winning record, attended the first round of state, won, made it to the quarterfinals, but we came up a little bit short there. So definitely some positive outlook for football. We do have some seniors that are leaving, but we have a lot of key kids returning next year. So looking for a promising season for football again next year. And with that, that's all of the fall sports that we have. We'd like to add that we're working to establish a positive culture of athletics at our school. One that not only focuses on athletics, but also has academics in the forefront and also sportsmanship. We want to be known for Grants High School being a school that promotes sportsmanship. And so all of our coaches are working towards that. We still have some work to do, but I mean, we will get there, and we're going to establish that positive culture in athletics. With that, thank you for your time and allowing us to recognize all of our fall sports. Like Mr. Widener said, football the state championships was this last Saturday. And so with that, we couldn't announce any of our first team, second team, or any all-stars at that time, but it will be coming, and maybe later on down the road, we can definitely acknowledge them at a school board meeting.
That's
We'll do
awesome.
that with certificates and any of your coaches that are selected for anything. Well,
I forgot about soccer.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, I was missing one. So soccer, again, we had, this was the first year for boys and girls that the coach, this is their first full year as the coach. Last year, both of the coaches stepped in interim halfway through. And so they did, they were able to have their first full season. And again, like cross country, like a lot of our sports, our numbers are increasing drastically. And with soccer, we only have varsity, but we may be at the point of looking to see if we can add a JV team and with as many kids that are wanting to participate. So didn't mean to leave out soccer, I'm sorry. It's not a presentation, so I can't stand for questions, but I don't know.
thank you, Mr. Hudby.
Thank you
We-
so
We
much.
we will recognize your superior athletes.
Yes. Good job. Mr. Widener,
Now it's time for presentations, and it's our first meeting of the month where we will have a dash plan presentation. I have asked Ms. Coles, who is the principal of the Early College High School, to come and share the dash plan for ECHS and the goals that they're working towards this year.
Good evening, Board President Lee, board members, Mr. Widener, our superintendent, district staff, audience, welcome this evening. I would like to present our goals for the dash plan and how they align with our strategic plan. Next. Hello.
There he
Thank you.
is.
Our first goal is we're offering professional development and data using Early College High School, hoping to provide targeted professional development for all instructional staff on data-driven instruction practices, including data analysis, interpretation, and application. The goal is for 100% of the teachers to complete training and demonstrate improved data utilization in lesson planning and instructional adjustments. This aligns with goal number 1 of the GCCS strategic plan, and that all staff
We are providing excellent instruction, which includes providing a safe and respectful learning environment utilizing the latest technology and instruction practices. Our second goal is school leaders will work together with teachers, staff, and the community to address challenges and drive school improvement. Overall improvement in student academic performance, including proficiency rates, growth matrix, and reduce achievement gaps. A culture of continuous improvement where leaders and staff regularly evaluate and refine practices to enhance school performance. This aligns with goal number 2 of the strategic plan. In this goal, we support a school-wide community of support, guidance, and healthy understanding of standard alignment as outlined in the DLP, which has thus far led to mindsets of excellence and partnerships. This year as a team, we've learned to work well together and support one another and utilize our STAR data in order to adjust instruction to ensure that our students are successful. This is evident in our latest progress monitoring assessment, which we used the STAR, which showed that we had 86% of our freshmen in ELA testing at or above benchmark and 75% at or above benchmark in math. Our 10th graders have tested 86% above benchmark. We also have an environment that is respectful, free of aggressive behavior. Students feel comfortable asking for help from every staff member. Next. We would like to thank district office, board members, parents, and community members for all your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I know I can speak from experience. My kid is having a good time with the environment that you have provided. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Weiner.
So it has been almost 3 months since we had an action item where we contracted with Sharp Technology to have utilization of the help desk. Mrs. Hunt Daly, I have asked Mr. Tafoya to come here tonight. I have also asked Mr. Jones, as the Director of Technology and Business, to work together to give us a report about the productivity of the Sharp contract and the future of that agreement.
Mrs. Lee, members of the board, and Superintendent Widener, Isaac and I have kind of put a short presentation together, really just talking points. And we're gonna play this good cop, bad cop. I'm gonna let Isaac talk about all of the good that has come from this project, and I'll come at the end and kind of talk about the bad and kind of where I see going from here. So one thing that I wanna say openly and publicly is in my conversations with Sharp, all the way to their, Director of Engineering, who is housed in Chicago, they cannot say enough good about the technology team that we have and how strong our network is. And when they got and started digging into things, a lot of the times they were asking Isaac how they should be doing things elsewhere, which to me it's really a pride thing. Like, we have a lot of skill in-house that we are taking advantage of. So with that being said, I've asked Isaac to talk about the engineering portion of the project, and then I will talk about the help desk portion of the project. So just so that you all are clear, these two items are separate but connected. Connected because they're through the same company, but separate being that the scope of work on the engineering side was different than the service that they are providing to our staff to be able to address work orders or issues that they have, so.
Madam President, Superintendent Widener, members of the board, directors, thank you guys for having me today. Sorry about that. So, after the assessment was performed on our network a few months back, there were some findings, of course, and some of them they they were in our, vision, the field of vision, we had a plan to correct them. There was about 34 findings, and immediately I'm very proud to say, my team jumped on those and squashed out most of those findings before Sharp even jumped on board with us. But we did create a good working relationship with Sharp, and they helped us squash out the remaining deficiencies that we found on our network, eliminate a bit of a sprawl with servers, and but just to give you an idea, we had like 34 findings, say 4 of them were left remaining when they came in within the week. And the other piece that we had purchased from them was an antivirus replacement to replace our current or previous antivirus, which was Symantec. And we have now purchased, I believe it's called Sentinel-1 through Sharp. So currently, we have embedded that antivirus into our new image for our Windows 11 Dynabooks. And we're currently rolling that Windows 11 update out to all the older desktops and any other machines that are remaining that are not Dynabooks, just to work there. And so that antivirus is being, fully integrated into our network. It's working good for us. Dynabooks, yeah, that was one of the big things that came out of this was a new imaging server that we're using. So that's gonna be able to help us in the future with rolling out patches and updates, which I'm very excited for. The Dynabook rollout, just to give you a brief update on that rollout and how we're doing and where we're at on that. Teachers, we're pretty much done with the rollout of the teacher Dynabooks. We have a few that have come in late that we're still needing to follow up with, but currently we're working on the admin rollouts that are I'd say, I seen my text saying they were planning up the last batch of 6 computers to get fully imaged and set up in-house to get those out to hopefully central office within this next week or so. So we'll be visiting you guys soon here at Central. But other than that, we're gonna roll back out to the sites and touch base with all the staff that we missed, like that weren't in the teacher category, but yeah, I see them as admins, and we're gonna touch base with some instruction coaches and nurses, that kind of stuff, where they're gonna be getting a new device as well. So we are almost complete with that rollout, and on top of that, other good things that came from this would just be another good working relationship with another vendor. And yeah, if you guys have any questions on any of those things, please let me know.
Board members, any questions for?
Madam President, I'm trying to review, you said engineering and help desk.
Yes.
And you addressed the engineering aspect of it.
Yes.
And you were going to talk about the help desk.
I will.
You said 34 findings. Out of 34, you would resolve except for 4.
Yes.
Okay. And you resolved those fairly quickly.
Yes. Yes. With the help of their engineering, we got, one of them was a crash server, and we had to get the engineer involved in getting that guy out of our replication. So that was a very tedious task. The other one was the server we were replacing for Symantec, I believe, and our certificate authority. Those were the 3 that were a little old and outdated that we needed some extra hands on, somebody with experience in replacing a CA on an enterprise level network, which some good came out of that as well, because now with the replacement of the CA, we have a best practice in place where we have one CA supporting those certificates, and the CA in the background that's always offline and turned off until next year when we need another certificate.
What is
CA
CA?
is a certificate authority. I'm sorry, I do that. Thank you.
It's okay.
The certificate authority on our network that hands out certificates. So we have a bit of a best practice going forward with this now that we had a little bit of support in that area. So that I'm very grateful.
Of course, I didn't understand what certificate of authorization means. Antivirus replacement, what did we have before?
For this one,
Before we had Sentinel-1?
it was Symantec antivirus endpoint protection. And it was hosted in-house on a server in-house, so that server got to go away with this new installed Sentinel-1 is a cloud-based antivirus. And we have their agent installed on all our machines now.
Okay, so Dynabooks, explain what that is.
Dynabook is the new laptop slash desktop that we've given to all the teachers and admins, that it's gonna act as a mobile device and a desktop. You can set it on the desk, dock it to their dock and 2 monitors, or the 1 monitor with that acts as a dock. And you just set them up together and you have 2 screens working together as a desktop. Some just prefer desktop, they don't wanna take that thing home. And some wanna unplug it and take it mobile with them, so it kind of puts, like, in the past, we used a desktop and a laptop to give to each teacher. Now they only need 1 device, so it saves on that bit of a sprawl too. So we have 1 device now that replaces 2.
This was what we as the board approved earlier this year.
But it goes to the teachers, to all staff, who does not get them?
Let's see, we have, I think 60 left out of the teacher, or 40 left out of the teacher models, so I wanted to kind of sit on those, because we got teachers coming and going all the time. And out of the admin ones, everybody that is working at the admin level, like say, principals and their secretaries are considered admin staff at the sites. And then we do have a spreadsheet trying to work all the numbers in so everybody can get one, and the people that are not gonna get one, we're trying to get them updated Windows 11 of the Lenovo laptops that we had that were pulling from them. They're still in great shape, so some of those that are in great shape are gonna go back to the staff that doesn't get a Dynabook. But most of the staff will get a Dynabook.
The students?
Students only at early college, right?
Yeah, so the students at the early college, high school, they have dual enrollment responsibility, so they need to be able to run a Windows device so that they can use Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So their need is different than students at, say, Grants High School or Laguna. They use what we call Chromebooks, and that model is being revamped. Just internally, we're looking at some of the policy there. We're also in the process of ordering new Chromebooks for our students so that they don't have to go without one. If they need one, they can get it, because our teachers are using technology and they're using it well, and these students need to be able to keep up.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Anything else, board members?
Yes, I'd like to address this to Mr. Isaac. You mentioned, well, someone mentioned that many of the things that are already being done at the Grant School District, and that Sharp was, I guess, a little amazed at what the duties and that you were carrying out. What do you see, Mr. Chapoy, as the future for this contract? If it feels like you're already doing most of the work, then is this a continued contract for a year, 2 years, 3 years? I've always had a lot of faith in our IT department, and I know that they really live up to their expertise, and I've never had any trouble when I call on their help. They're always willing and ready to help us. So I guess my major concern was, how much more service is the Sharp contract providing us that our current IT staff is already doing. And my second question would be, you mentioned Dynabots and stuff, and it getting into all the teachers. Does it work in connection with Synergy? Are they able to talk to each other? And did you provide adequate training to all staff, especially the teaching staff? I am so old school that it probably take me months, maybe a year, to learn how to use this system. And I know there are teachers at all school sites that are old school as well, and that so many times, and I was part of this when we first went into Power School. We were told, okay, you're going into Power School. Okay, we got half a day training with a consultant there punching the keys for us. And I'm over there slapping her hand. I said, I need to learn how to do that. You showing me does not, when you're gone, how, I'm not gonna know how. And so I'm just a little bit antsy about how well all the staff, not just the computer, not just you young guys, but the all people who are not as computer literate as you all are they receiving enough and adequate training to operate these dual boards and stuff like that way? Um, I still, hook my laptop to my Promethean board, and it's changed over the years. So I'm just, uh, let me know, Mr. Tafoya, what are we doing, and is it to your liking, and what do you see in the future for this contract?
I see. So to answer your first question, thank you for that. Yes, I do have a lot of faith in my team as well. I do believe we have the skills necessary to, continue going with these new implementations and managing them in-house. I do believe that. And, there's always that need for engineering level support. So I know that you guys will always provide that to us at that level if need be. In regard to the Dynabooks and the training for the teachers, our technicians, as they're out in the fields, they like to do a lot of hands-on with them and give them, tips and tricks and pointers on how to use, especially these new devices that are, two different modes. You've got the dual screen mode, you got the mobile mode, or you got just desktop mode where you could shut it down. And we're trying to give them all the aspects and the training they need to manage it at their best abilities, And there was something we trialed last year that I want to bring back to life this year. It was Technology Day, and we started it at the mid-school, and that was a day where we take advantage of one of the PD days and turn it into a day of learning for our teachers and our staff. They can ask questions, we can share tips and tricks and show them, how to really manage and manipulate these computers at the level that they're working at, especially in Synergy. And yes, it is compatible with Synergy, and I believe they are receiving all the training that they need and that is necessary for them to be successful.
Would you be amenable? Would you be amenable to assist those old school staff that are still having difficulty? I think it's important for them to learn, but not to be rushed into it as well. It takes, I'm the same way. It takes me time to learn a new program, and even at the school that I work at now, I'm the only one that really uses the Promethean board. Nobody knows how to connect it to their tablet. And I work with my brother, and if you want to know somebody old school, that's him. And so, it's taken me at least maybe almost 2 weeks to show him how to connect and how to use the source button so he can project from his laptop to the Promethean board. So I'm just, my husband's old school, and there are others that they bind together because they're having difficulty, and I just want them to have an avenue to go to ask for assistance. And like you said, this hands-on stuff is so important to these staff members because they need to be the one to press the buttons, not just here, let me do it for you. I have too many trainers like that. So, but my last question was, do you see a future for continued contract, or are we providing the services necessary to continue without the contract?
Ms. Hunt Daly, that's a perfect introduction to the bad cop portion of this presentation. So I'm super grateful for Isaac to be here. If you couldn't tell from his ability to field questions very quickly, he operates at a very high level, especially when it comes to the engineering side of our network. With that being said, and I've heard Isaac and Scott and Esteban and the whole team say, there is sometimes a need for engineering, somebody on the outside that has a specialization in a tool that we have purchased that they can help us kind of fine tune that thing. I think that Sharp has done an okay job at that. I don't think that they are the best bang for the buck on the engineering side of things. And I've had these discussions with Sharp as well. So some of the issues that we kind of saw with our Sharp relationship is The engineer that they sent us was also working for another school district. They were doing 100% of this school district's work, from setting up computers and making sure that passwords were set and all of their onboarding on the technology side and things like that. So what that had done is it was really a time vacuum for this engineer that was here, because when he was here, he was performing work for other school districts, which we addressed, and we actually found out today that they have parted ways with that engineer, and we have an interim engineer in the meantime. So that's one of the kind of the frustrations that we've had. Another frustration, which is on the help desk side of things, which was the big ticket item when the board voted. It's something to the tune of $27,000 a month to have the help desk functioning. Last week, we had 2 total phone calls into their help desk. So 2. So for that, if we're looking at it day to day, we're paying around $1,000 a day for them to provide assistance to things that our team could have handled. So that's not to say that Sharp is terrible and they're the worst or anything like that. The model that they have tried to approach with our school district, it's not feasible, especially in addressing Ms. Hunt Daly with maybe some of our more senior teachers that maybe feel a little bit left behind with technology and things like that. To click an icon or to talk on the phone, it's not the same thing as having one of our IT technicians in the chair next to you showing you how to do those things. So as far as what it looks like on the future, I don't think that it is the best investment of our money on the help desk side. With that being said, Sharp has business solutions for smart boards or antivirus or engineering or student devices or all of those things that we can still keep a relationship with them. The help desk just isn't that.
Okay, now that you brought that up, I know I have great concern for you or the district providing them with all the security passcodes and stuff, and you just mentioned some guy parted ways. Did he have access to our security codes? And disgruntled employees can about do anything if they have the right codes, and that would be my concern.
Yeah, which it's a valid concern. The second that we had found out that they had parted ways, Isaac and his team basically revoked all access that that individual had. The same as if we have an employee that leaves, that they shouldn't have access to our network and things like that. So there's not a concern for the security breach on Sharp's side because we're really vigilant and have taken care of that. And with the engineering piece or SentinelOne or a work order system, those are things that we can do internally that just takes a little extra legwork, but the team is very capable to accomplish those tasks.
And are we keeping an eye on that? Because, well, we all know that there are hackers out there that are genuine artists of what they're doing. And that would be just my major concern, because I think we did have someone that their payroll got hacked. And I'm just, concerned that the more we branch out with these other companies, that I don't want this happening to our district or
Absolutely.
information being leaked out. It happens to the government, to the federal government, so here we are, a little school district. We don't want it happening to us.
So
Assure me it's not going to happen.
It's a super valid concern, and that should be the concern for all of us with our personal devices and things like that as well. So what SentinelOne provides is they provide an antivirus. They also provide like an anti-malware. So if you're getting those shady emails and things like that, it'll help filter that. We also pay for a service called Securely, and Securely has a security functionality as well. So even our students who have Chromebooks, they are protected where they can't get into places that they shouldn't, but also places that they should be avoiding can't get to them, so that we're protecting our student data and making sure that all of that is airtight. So one really cool thing about SentinelOne is They're relatively new. They've been in the game 3 or 4 years from what I understand in the expanse that they're in, and they have had 0 breaches. So they have a perfect track record when it comes to protecting networks and devices. They've never had a breach, which is
Huge.
it's huge. So I don't know that they can keep that streak forever, but Sentinel-1 is the product that we purchased through Sharp that we can hold our own license for that product as well.
So we part with Sharp, will we still use Sentinel? Will we still be able to use it if we part with Sharp?
That is the plan, to continue using Sentinel-1 for as long as it does us justice and that it's doing good for us, we're gonna keep using that. But on another layer of security, not just network layer security, but the end user layer where awareness training is necessary, you're asking about training. That is a huge one that we wanna implement coming this new year. We have access to a program now that I wanna roll out. I've been trying to work with our team at Arctic Wolf to roll this email simulation program out to spot check our staff on whether or not who's clicking on bad emails, who's getting caught into these phishing scams. And it'll train them on the site as they're clicking into these bad emails, and I'm very excited to get that rolled out, so I can't wait till that happens. I could foresee that happening within the next couple months.
So Mr. Isaac, because I have so much confidence in you, if you give me a thumbs up, I'll back you 100%.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for reading the bad talk.
Board members, any further questions?
Any further?
You said 2, was that 2 people in the last 90 days that we've had the program, or just 2 in this month, or?
It was just 2 last week, so the help desk also wasn't live day 1 as it was promised. So all of the teacher devices have had it from the beginning. They were given the sheet of how to fill it out and how to access the help desk. As has been noted, training is necessary for something like, and the technology team has been really diligent, where if they call with an issue that the help desk can take care of, they will route them that way. Please call the help desk, we're paying for the service, they can take care of it. It's honestly, it's a struggle to force somebody to call someone they don't know to solve a problem that could be handled
Here.
faster. Yeah, with a face that you know. So part of that is kind of a fault of ours, where, you know, I think that if we committed and we just said we're gonna die on this hill and we should do Sharp forever, our staff would eventually have to get to that. I just don't know that that model is appropriate for our employees.
Board members, anything further?
Last comment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, both of you to give me an assessment as to where we are with that. And if you recall, we said there was a certain period of time, and then we would need to reevaluate it.
And we're at that time. Yes, sir.
Okay, then we also, down the road, we're gonna have to decide, administratively, what the recommendation is for the future year, the upcoming years, so that would be part of the process of evaluation and planning of technology. The expenditure of $27,000 is for 2 calls is disturbing. And I think that we should have, hindsight is great.
Yes, sir.
We should have made an assessment as to whether or not, you know, the technology was necessary at the beginning, so that we would not have to expend it some amount of money. And so we need to be careful about the next go around is what are we gonna be, what are our needs, and can our existing staff, no matter who they are capable of doing the job? And if they are, then we should just stick with what we got. If not, then we do need additional expertise, and that's in all areas besides technology. So let's make sure that when we do move forward, that we have a strong evaluation of what it is that we want, and then make a decision that we would select for the board in the future. Sometime down the road, 3 months from now, soon. So how much is it gonna cost us to continue with the Sharp excluding the help desk?
Those services will only be charged as they are used. So we don't have to use a Sharp engineering team either. We have other vendors within our network that offer services that can help. And I really feel, I don't feel bad, I feel somehow. The engineer that we had was a lovely guy. He was just spread really, really thin. And he was pretty green, which don't hold it against me, but where Isaac really was kind of telling him how to build things and why it won't work and kind of explaining that, so.
I still don't quite understand, was his engineering services involved with the installation of the antivirus system?
Mostly happened in-house, but I take pride in that because he knew he didn't have to run the show there. He had other work going on and he allowed us to, take it and run with it. I really, I will give that credit to Scott. Scott spun up that server and installed it and pushed the group policies out to push the new antivirus out to the district.
So,
I think what you're asking is if we tonight decide that we are no longer gonna be going with the help desk portion, how much are we as a district utilizing Sharp? And I heard a minute ago, $4,000-ish.
So,
And that, what does that get us?
yeah, so the $4,000 invoice was just for engineering services last month. So that's
Okay.
having somebody here on site to kind of correct the findings that were in that original assessment. So of the 34, Isaac and Scott fixed 30 of them without Sharp's help. Sharp has spent the last 3 months fixing the remaining 4. We have 1 outstanding. It's something that we can take care of. It's to limit the number of administrative accounts because we have too many people that have the ability to get into things that they probably shouldn't get into.
So Madam President, I would suggest we have the superintendent entertain a final review as to what it is we actually want to do with Sharp. And present that to the board so we have an idea actually what the cost is going to be and the scope of it. And give them a chance to run the numbers, so to speak. And then have an idea of whether or not this is possible. You're saying already that we're not gonna use the help service, but we're needing to make clear exactly what additional costs we need to incur. And I think with these two looking at it, they can determine the scope of our contract with them, if there's a need to continue with the contract with them. And they can do that down the road. I think the initial decision is just to continue with the help, and then what I'm suggesting is that we come back in December and having run those numbers and see what is it they actually would like to have remaining. And then we just with that last part, give them a chance to evaluate.
Absolutely.
And I think that it sounds like they're really looking at it in a sound technological.
Very pragmatically.
We are, and Sentinel-1's not proprietary to Sharp. I mean, we can call Sentinel-1 and say, we have parted ways with Sharp, we want access to that account. And instead of Sentinel-1 invoicing Sharp so Sharp can invoice us, it just comes straight to us.
And that actually fits into your plan to try to create a master technology plan. Because then they can then say, this is our experience, let's build it to a master plan.
This way.
An approach to dealing with technology. And it sounds like we're developing an internal expertise that makes those kinds of decisions for us and for the board, so that it doesn't cost us a ton of money. Thank you, appreciate it. So
Anything
that's
further?
my suggestion is that they come back with a costing of what's going to be left for us in December.
Anything further, board members? Thank you, Dr. Archambault.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President. And you guys, well done.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, excellent.
Good job.
I've also tasked Mr. Jones with working on our RFP. We talked, and we talked about that he would try to have a draft for us at a future meeting. He's working on our board legal services RFP. Right now, he is trying to collaborate with a couple of different school districts and how they do their RFPs, adding in the tribal relation experience component that we added. And so he doesn't necessarily have a presentation tonight, but
Update.
I did ask him to give you an update and feedback.
Perfect. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Widener, I will be as brief as I can. I have gone down the rabbit hole. It has been said that educators are the best con artists there are because you replicate and you steal. You know, there's these instructional things that you see and you try to become those. So after our last board meeting with some of the feedback, which I'm always very appreciative of, I kind of thought to myself, why reinvent the wheel when the wheel is already in place somewhere else? So I'm in the process now of researching RFPs from our neighboring school districts for board legal services, including Albuquerque Public Schools and Gallup-McKinley Public Schools, both of which have working relationships with tribal entities. And I just want our RFP to be as robust as it can so that we have the best bang for our buck. I have an experience that I'll share from my time as a project manager in construction. I was bidding a job, and I won't get into all of the details, but after I had submitted this bid, there were 6 other bids that they were going to review at this meeting. I was half as much as the second lowest bid. So you would think that I would have won that bid. I did not. I did not win the bid. And the reasoning that they had given me is to a certain extent, you kind of get what you pay for. And they thought that going with my low bid meant that I did not account for potential errors or weather delays or those things which I had. That industry is somewhat inflated or manipulated so that you can make money on the top end. So I've kind of taken that approach into writing our RFP and making those changes is if we are going to have a 5-star law firm or attorney give legal services to our board, our RFP needs to be a 5-star. Because if it's not, we will attract the kind of talent that our RFP is. I'm not saying that our RFP is bad. I just want to make sure that all of our bases are covered, and I appreciate your support while I do that. And I'm happy to discuss what I have found and what I'm looking at. To be honest, it is a lot like trying to take a sip out of a fire hydrant. Our RFP is pretty simple. Some of these other RFPs that I've looked at are close to 70 to 90 pages.
Oh my goodness.
Because they are very robust. I'm not saying that we have to go in that direction and that's what we have to do. I'm just really vetting our process to make sure that it's airtight. So that's my update.
So, another update, the next meeting, which will tell us how far along he's gone. I'm not in a hurry.
Agreed.
And so, just so long as we get it right, and remember, it isn't just a, we can seek services from multiple, and districts do that. They do hire more than one firm. And so, to keep that in mind as you see the proposals from other school districts, which I've looked at also, and you'll see that they do provide that option, alternative. And we do that too in ours. We have that
Yes.
option. And so you might explore how that's done, how do they do that, and why do they do that? And that will help us, you can educate us, so that we have an understanding of the board, and the board's council. The board needs to have flexibility to do that, and you can help us understand those kind of options that other proposals in other school districts create. That would be a great assistance to us. Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Board members, anything further for Mr. Jones regarding the RFP?
Like you said, we're not in much of a hurry, we gotta do it right.
Yeah,
We want it to be sound.
services.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening. Mr. Widener, I believe the spotlight is on you, sir.
Perfect. So tonight is the third.
No. Could I take a recess
Of
break for
course.
about 20 minutes?
No.
Lunch?
About 5 minutes?
If you need to, go
Yes.
right ahead, but we need to keep moving.
Oh, well, in that case,
Because
I'll-
we have the executive and we'll take a brief
Oh, I see. I didn't
recess
see
before
that.
the
Okay, let's do
executive.
it that time.
Yes, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, here we go.
Um,
Mr.
As I-
Triplehorn.
as I was starting a moment ago, this is the third board meeting where I'm trying to give you an update on the IPAC, our Indian Parent Advisory Committee, our IPP, the Indian Procedures and Policies, as well as our tribal consultations. As you heard a while ago from citizens to address the board, it hasn't been seamless thus far. The IPAC is led by parents. We have sound bylaws that needed updating. We have bylaws that say if officers miss certain meetings, they're no longer an officer. Our bylaws say that we need one representative from Acoma, one representative from Laguna, and one representative from the Navajo group. And if you aren't a parent, you're not a voting member. If you're if you miss so many meetings, you're no longer an officer. And so it's been a whole lot of work. Starting, Mr. Valdo started in July and started having meetings in August. And finally, we're making some sound progress. We had a really good meeting with what is her first name?
Annabelle Toledo.
Annabelle, with the Office of
Annabelle Toledo.
the Federal Office of Indian Education, and talked about kind of some of the struggles that we've had with IPAC. And so on November 22nd, 2024, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Valdo, and Ms. Salazar had a Microsoft Teams meeting with Annabelle Toledo and the Office of Indian Education to discuss the challenges of the IPAC committee and the potential repercussions of those challenges on our Title VI funding, because they're connected, right? So we need to have good IPAC, we need to have IPP, we need to have tribal consultations. And so according to our bylaws, due to the expiration of the current officer's terms and bylaws, as the superintendent, I am the authorizing official for the Title VI grant. What that means is that we've brought in legal, we've looked at the bylaws, we've looked at the federal bylaws, and the agreement is that the superintendent has to appoint parent committee leadership who will remain in office until the next election cycle, which is the fall of 2026. So I will need to get with stakeholders and make sure that we get good representatives that will come in and be these officials. We agreed to utilize the Office of Indian Education bylaws template and their legal team to finalize our bylaw revisions. So that way our bylaws are aligned with the federal bylaws. I will continue to work with Mrs. Jones and Mr. Valdo to ensure that these actions take place. And then we'll be reporting at a future meeting who our officers are and how the bylaws operate. The IPP is related because you have to have stakeholder meetings, you have to talk about the IPP, and every year it's revised, it's brought to the board, it's shared in tribal consultations with our tribal leaders and our stakeholders. Mr. Valdo is working now to have work sessions with stakeholders to revise and update the IPP. We will bring it to a board meeting in the very near future. And we continue we will continue to share that with tribal consultation. We did have the Laguna Tribal Officer Consultation today. We met with the officers of the Pueblo of Laguna. And they have asked us to come back and talk to tribal council. They've asked us to bring some additional data and reports. And so that will be on the agenda very, very quickly. First Lieutenant Governor Chino and I have been back and forth. I think you guys have received some emails. We are trying to find a date when I can have board members there as well as directors. As you look around the room tonight, several of our directors are out at a instruction conference and they're gathering curriculum and so December's a little hectic and scheduling is problematical, but we're working very, very hard and I know Pueblo of Acoma, they could potentially have different leadership, and so it's very much a relationship that we need to work on. First Lieutenant Governor and I have a good working relationship, and I look forward to keeping that and setting up that tribal consultation. They're all kind of related there, and so it's very important that we do that for compliance for our federal applications and federal funding. And so that's kind of this week's update on that, and I'll continue to update you as the month continues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Widener. I believe we're ready for action items.
Question.
Oh, question, sorry.
I'm looking at your iPad, this here. It says, and I just went back through my chronology of all the meetings we've had. And I'm trying to understand clearly why we're without leadership since August, when there's a meeting that shows August 24th, IPAC meeting minutes. And I think that was probably one of the first meetings that rolled out. And the IPAC is something that has been going on since 1972.
Correct.
When the Indian Education Act was established by Congress, and the reason the Indian Education Act was enacted, and also the reason why a unique thing called a parent committee was created was due to the massive efforts of tribes to advocate for at least a piece of the funding that was provided to the school districts like us. And so there's a lot of history that I would recommend someone having spent you have some time to spend to find out why this occurred. It was very momentous. But the reason I'm mentioning tribes is because it was the sovereign view of tribes that they have Congress accord a portion of the fund. It's always been modest. It's never been millions of dollars for each school. It'll be 100 to 400,000 or 500,000. Gallup will get the most in the school district in this state. The parent committee was strongly pushed by the parents with their tribes. The parents back then said, we need a voice. And so Congress included that. And so since 1972, that's what we've done. It's very simple, not complex. And so that means that it should not be extensive like our voluminous policies are. It only is to do a couple of things. One is to be involved in developing the application for the Unit Education Formula Grant, is what they call it. And there to participate in the needs assessment, in the design, creation of objectives, staffing, and so forth. They do not get involved in the administrative portion of it, which means to run the show. But they are there to be provided the opportunity to know how this program is working. So every month, throughout the country, throughout the nation, school districts that have title, parent committee meetings, they do their business of reviewing how things are going with their project. Ours is small. We have a small portion of staffing. They're either liaisons or they work in the classrooms and so forth. And, or they might, I'm not sure whether we fund any of the language programs with that. But it's in a lot of the schools, and some of them have been long-standing employees of the district. And they've provided a vital service, continue to do so. They used to, I'm not sure, I haven't even seen these meetings, but they used to make reports to the IPAC, so the IPAC knew. Schools would make reports to the IPAC. We used to have nice gatherings with evening meals. It was a great opportunity, and school district and school representatives and school board members would come over there and sit in on it. It's not our show. We just get to sit and enjoy what's going on. Sometimes there'd be presentations. And it was very simple. It was not a complex thing. And so what puzzles me is why it's taking us since August to have this done. And you and I have had emails back and forth on that. And I just said, all we have to do is to look at the minutes to see if there are any issues with respect to the leadership. But also said that there's that if you need to, they would call a meeting and say, is there a need to have new officers? And there was a meeting, if I recall right, where they actually those who were in attendance decided that they did not want to took it off the agendas. But it didn't mean that it couldn't come back. Because whenever you take off something in the agenda, it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. It just means that, you know, you can bring it back to life again. So that was to me, the only solution was to bring it back up and to then go back and decide on who's going to be the officers. And I know it's been several months, 4 months, when we're here. And you had to go talk to the U.S. Department of Education, Annabelle Toledo. And she explained, probably all of us to you, that this is how it works. And that the administrator, the LEA is responsible for applying for the monies with the approval of the parent committee. And then the LEA, which is the superintendent and also is whomever you designate, is the one who works in concert with the parent committee. And that's always how it's been for a long time. And they work together to do those things. That means that if there's an agenda put together, the way the bylaws read is that the chair of the IPAC would meet with the district's liaison representative, whoever that is, and it typically is our Indian head coordinator. and they sit down and prepare the agenda. And then but then after that, when the meeting is convened, then the president of the IPAC is responsible for the whole meeting. There's no place for the administration to stop what it's doing. And that's a great concern for the parents, is that they feel that once they get started, unless there's some administrative kind of a problem that exists that we would say, but typically, if the director or the coordinator has sat down and created the agenda, then they know what's coming down the pipe in that meeting. And sometimes you have to encourage and guide the direction, especially if there's any discussions that might be in violation of board policy, such as complaints and stuff like that. We have to be careful about those things. But by and large, it's fairly cut and dry. And so it's really concerned to see that we're have to go to the U.S. Department of Education. And from what I read here, we discussed the challenges. So I'm assuming there's been a couple of conversations. Has there been anything in writing that has been sent forth between our district and the Office of Indian Education that represents the conversations that we've had?
We've had to submit minutes and kind of the transcripts of the meetings. Part of the problem has been that our officers have been hit and miss. There hasn't been a lot of collaboration between the officers and Mr. Valdo, and then we've had officers not show up, and then we've had officers show up, and our chair resigned a few weeks ago, and so and now their terms are up, and so after the 2 years, and so it's time that we move forward. And you talk about the Title VI funds, and that is important funding. We utilize it to finance our Title VI liaisons, and so those are the folks that help us with those relationships with the tribes, and that's how we pay those salaries. And so it is important that we apply for the funding, and we need to. We're on the cusp now of having this productive and having it working. It's been, we've as Mr. Chino said, we've had legal consultants in there, and we've had parliamentarians there. As the superintendent, I've kind of stayed out of it because, it needs to be the Indian parent group and their leadership, and so we're gonna get better. We're right there. We're about to get better with the IPAC.
Yeah, I understand that. That's always what we want to hear from our superintendent, to say that we've got to find some constructive solution for that. In this instance, you've got tribes who have a vested interest in this, and you just heard from one who said that, there's some concerns regarding this, and that is true. But what you're saying is that you're basing your decision upon an agreement between the district and the Office of Indian Education. If that is so, then we should see a formal record of that from the Office of Indian Education, so that we can see what it is that they had said that we need to do. Because this is very unusual.
Yeah.
And that's not the norm, especially when it's a very easy thing to solve. All you had to do was to convene another meeting and say, we're going to, and seek, you're gonna have to seek representation from 3 tribes, plus you're gonna have to seek representation from each of the tribes Because in the Education Act law, it says that representation from the tribes must be a part of that. Our current bylaws doesn't say that, but the law says that. And so I think they probably reminded you of that, as saying that it is available for the tribes. Now, not all school districts have representation by tribes. But in this instance, I think that we've got tribes who are very actively interested in being a part of that decision making. So when we do that, that has to be incorporated into the creation of the new set of bylaws. I'm not sure whether the board is in a place where it should consider a review and approval of the bylaws. That's something that we may need to entertain, but I don't know. I know what the draft template says from the federal template. And even the public education department has the same copy of the template. And it does state, some common things. You made, what you stated was that made some statements that were somewhat critical of certain individuals who you stated were officers. And so I don't know whether or not they feel that your explanation of their conduct is how they see it. There's always two sides to the story. And the side that the Office of Indian Education heard was your side.
Well, and our bylaws say if you miss 2 meetings, you're not an officer.
Absolutely. But which meetings?
The meetings last spring.
Where are the minutes? All we have to do is to show the minutes, to say that there was a meeting that was held, and at that meeting, whether there was no meeting or not, is there a record that a meeting was called, and did this person show or not show? So if you have minutes, I think that makes it perfectly clear for everybody to see. And then I think you mentioned, did the application, if there are no meetings or no minutes, then how did the application get approved for submission to Washington, the current application? Because for this current parent committee to function, they must function with the application that was approved by the parent committee. So if you can show and provide the documentation so that when the new officers are in place, they can see, here's the application, these are the goals and objectives, this is the budget, and this is the date and time when the parent committee from the previous spring approved it, and that it was sent, and typically that's going to be in April and May. So if you were to refer back to the minutes of April and May, you would then be able to show, and actually the application has the form itself, and on that form it lists the date and the time and the person's in attendance, and then it has the person sign off on it. That's one of the things I think I heard him say.
Sir, I'm gonna
And
remind you, we
I'm just
can't
about to do-
address
Yeah.
the public comments.
And so I'm about to be finished with that. I think that I'm very concerned that you're going to decide who's going to be the IPAC representatives. I don't countenance that. I don't think that really makes it difficult, because I don't know what your process is going to be. I don't know how you're going to seek those persons to participate. Because if they see it, that's what you're going to do. And who's going to tell you, and how are you going to recruit those names? What is the process by which you're going to do that? That's one of the things that needs to be stated. You said the legal team. Which legal team are you referring to? says here, agreed to utilize the Office of Indian bylaw template and the legal team.
Their
Do they have-
legal
Do
team.
they have a legal team?
Yeah, and so our bylaws will emulate their bylaws with the same legal consultation.
Are you saying that you're going to have their legal team review our bylaws? Or are you saying that the legal team is going to help create the final version of the bylaws?
That's correct. Our bylaws will look like their bylaws.
But the template is already there, so there's no need for them to be involved. I'm just trying to figure out what you're saying. Are you gonna use our district attorneys, or are you gonna use the attorneys of the Office of Indian Ed?
We'll use their attorneys.
Okay. Are you able to have them provide us a written description of what has transpired?
Yeah.
And what they said they're going to do, and what they expect us to do?
We can do that.
And also, would you have them communicate what they recollect are being the basis for doing this? And how you have the authority to make those designations. And I'm still having real difficulty in having you appoint parent committee leadership, although that is something that districts do all the time when they create committees. It's just that this is a special committee that these tribal communities are very
It is.
interested in, and likewise, so is the tribal leadership. And so if we don't do this properly, you're gonna find that that the Office of Indian Ed is going to be confronted with some disaffected tribes. And that then requires them to respond to the inquiries or protests by tribes, and then they have to go through another process. And that's, you don't want to do that, because they will have no choice but to entertain the concerns that the tribes will express, or more tribes will express on this. So it would be very helpful for you to explain how you're going to do all of this. And when, because you also say down here, has a work session scheduled to revise and update the IPP. But it's not clear how you can go from these two bullets to him doing that, and who's going to be involved with that. If you already say that well, that's the IPP. And let me just change to the IPP. You know that we do recognize that the impact date is to be submitted in January, late January, and typically they want to see that the tribes have signed off and have been given the opportunity to sign off on the Indian policies and procedures. And that typically requires the superintendent to seek the signatures of the three tribes. And so we're still in the process of looking at the IPP. That requires meeting with each of the three tribes to do that. That is your massive undertaking in the month of December. Because then you think about the application process, and all three tribes have different agendas and schedules for December and January. And you did say that that Acoma might have new leadership. And but traditionally they are quite involved with a lot of things that are not secular, basically religious in orientation. So it's difficult to get time in for that. It'll be ready before the board at the first meeting in January. The law says that the district must engage the tribes in formulating this law. And we're already having difficulty in having district team to try and have a consultation meeting. So I'm trying to figure out when that could occur. I know we did a better job last year. We were able to get started on these things a bit earlier. And so now we're in December and we're trying to do multiple things. So the work is cut out in trying to get these things done. And it requires as you say, a close relationship between the tribes to do this. And waiting till January assumes that the new leadership of Acoma, if there is new leadership, is gonna have the time on our schedule. And it's highly likely that will be difficult. So,
Dr. Guy,
I
I
know-
think
I
he has
understand that.
addressed
yeah,
trying to get the schedule done.
yeah.
So I think we can
Well, and
keep,
I need to hear a response from you on all these things.
so the IPP, last year, we had 2 of our tribes that did not sign the IPP. We held tribal consultations and they did not sign it. And so we submitted it with 1 signature. And that is how the impact aid was funded this year. This year, we have had 2 tribal consultations so far. I'm gonna work to get a meeting with Acoma. The IPP, the signature part will have to happen in January. And that will be kind of replicates what we did last year. We held the tribal consultations and then we went in January to get the signatures. And so that'll kind of be the timeline. You're right, last year, the board did approve the IPP in October. And that was, I know they were pretty proactive in the fall last year. And we just haven't gotten it there yet with the iPad. And so it's gonna be a crunch of a timeline.
Yes, it is. I don't have any, I'm trying to think of ways in which it can be addressed. But one thing that I'm very concerned about is if you do these things unilaterally, and it has all the appearance of you making decisions as to who's going to be in the IPAC in a very unilateral basis. And you're going to have to reach out to somebody to get names of individuals who are going to want to participate.
Correct.
And how you do that is going to be very important. It means that it has to be a publicly, something that you do that is clear and communicated to everybody, including the tribes, about how you're going to do this. And they may want you to, they may find it be questioning if they're going to be left out of the process of selecting or recommending.
Well, and that was what I stated, that I would talk to the stakeholders, my partners at the tribes. So that, about who needs to be on the
Or
iPad.
who is interested.
Yeah.
It could be maybe 3 or 4 names.
Correct.
It could be something like that.
Correct.
All I'm saying is that whatever the procedure is, it needs to be public and very
open.
clear to the tribes how you're going to do this. And then because the formulation of the bylaws is approved by the committee. It's not done by an outside group. That means that the state or an attorney or you can create a set of bylaws and say, you shall approve this. There it is. Once you get a set of parents plus tribal representative to be recognized as being the committee, then they can be the ones who would approve the bylaws. Because I don't think any of the who want to participate would want to participate with a set of bylaws that they didn't participate in its development. And they're not that complex, so I'm suggesting you, it's really not that, if you looked at a lot of the bylaws throughout the country, they're fairly the same. And so, if you pull it together and get willing participants, that's important, so long as it's above and very publicly accomplished. And that's the concern that I think we all have, is that it's incumbent upon. What I think the DC is saying is that it's your responsibility as an ELA to ensure that the monies are used properly, as the application says. Plus also that you seek out the parents to participate in that they do their business with the bylaws. Not going on at length because there's a reason I beg your indulgence, Madam President. I know you're indulging your limit.
Very much so, very much so.
But I wanted you to recognize we've never talked about this before. And this has to be done, and it's very critical. And I'm looking directly at you because you're the one who shoulders that responsibility. And it's a tough job. But I think that it's important that the board feels that you're going to accomplish this task well, and that you're going to be able to incorporate the interests of the tribes in this, because we don't want them to be in opposition to us in these things. It gets complicated.
Correct.
And that means you've got 2 or 3 things you're having to do at the same time. And the IPP and the IPN and all that stuff is a challenge. And I apologize, and I know I've taken a lot of time, but that's basically an opportunity for me to express what I think are the important elements of what it is that we have to do at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
It was very important to you to be able to share that, so thank you for
I just have a
your
comment
insight on that.
or insight on that. Do you guys, so they do how do I wanna say, do they put together this committee? Are they a voting committee? Do they vote on stuff, or what does the committee do? Like, say I'm a parent, I wanna be on it, then what do I do?
So typically they're representing their pueblo or the Navajo
Community.
Nation, their community. And the requirement is they have to be a parent or a grandparent. They have to have a child in the school in Grand Cibola County Schools.
But are they influencing anything that's happening of the process?
They influence the policies and procedures, and they agree, they sign off on the Title VI application, which is how we fund the liaisons.
And it's all
And so
volunteer?
it's positions,
Right.
and it is a volunteer.
And it's for 2 years.
2 years.
Ron and I have created a lot of boards in our time, and one thing that they should have is an alternate, so that you never have a hole in a meeting. You know, there should be an alternate that's saying, hey, I'm not gonna make it, we have an alternate, slide in. That way the wheel keeps on turning, and they say, hey, we had to cancel a meeting, we didn't have somebody show up. I mean, that's just an idea, cause like I said, volunteer boards are hard to, like you said, they're easy to put together. But they can be complicated too, because, they're parents, they got other kids to deal with. And I didn't make that meeting, I'm sorry, I had this, and then like you said, you missed a couple of them. But if you can have an alternate to kind of come in and take your place, that's, I don't know, like I said, there's different ways, cause since August,
Well,
that's
we
like
would
4
have to-
months.
Yeah, we'd have to see exactly
But like I
what
said,
those
this is new
bylaws
to
are.
me, the
Right.
bylaws, and maybe look at that, and when you sit down, come up with the bylaws and say, hey, we need an alternate from every reservation or every tribe
And
to fill in.
Dr. Guy suggested, talk to tribal leadership and get a couple of names, and so that's a great suggestion.
The other way is is in the past I remember sitting at LA High School and there's a time to get new officers. And there's only 6. You got 3 from each tribe. Then 2 students and then a teacher. Now it has to be 7 they actually could get up to be two to three more. Trouble is, anyway, we do that, and then whoever's there, they ate well, and they're sitting there, and then they take nominations from the floor. That's another solution. We can have a grand meeting, and you would then have a lot of people come, feed them, and then seek some recommendations. And then they're the ones who then vote them in. In other words, that's how they do it. In this instance, you're saying that you're gonna do it. And that's gonna cause some strain. Because they're gonna say, that's how did you choose that person?
Well, but I think Mr. Widener has said several times now that he would be talking with each of the
Tribal
tribes
leadership.
and the leadership to get their recommendations,
It's
correct?
We met with one group, and I won't say who, but they were concerned about who their representative was on the IPAC. And so we need to make sure that our stakeholders are helping guide us
So,
with
I'm
that.
just saying that the original, one of the ways that we did it before was where we had this big meeting and David did it, you could actually replicate that and say, let's have a meeting where we have a bunch of parents there from different tribes and see if they want to do that. You could give it back to them. Or you could do what you were saying here just now, is that you would seek the input from the tribes to get names of individuals. And, the challenge is if you get 2 or 3 names from one tribe, how are you gonna make a choice? But that might be nice too, is that you actually have a number, and it's a matter of trying to create a good relationship with parents at a time when there's a basis of conflict that is causing this, and that's critical. So, I'm hoping that you will be able to move forward with this expeditiously, so that we know where we're going on that, and also, if you need to, I'll just make a note on what I was saying about seeking a formal statement from the Office of Indian Education as to what they consider to be their agreement with you and what it is that they're willing to do. I can
We
do
can
that,
do that.
Madam President, that just kind of clarifies things.
We can do that.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
All right, now, I believe we might be ready to move on to our action item. So our action item is consideration of extending the Sharp contract help desk. We're not talking the engineering, we're just talking about that $27,000 a month. And I'll remind the board that when we initially agreed to this, we agreed to 3 months as a trial of this. We did not agree, beyond the 3 months. So at this point, the ask is whether or not we as a district feel, as the board, want that help desk to continue. And we heard tonight from Mr. Jones and Mr. Tafoya about how little that help desk has been utilized. So in that, Mr. Widener, do you have a recommendation?
I'm gonna throw you a loop here. I recommend we take no action.
Excellent. Board members, is there a motion? And I have to ask for a motion.
This, Madam President, I move that we just continue the services of the Sharps help desk.
And is there a second?
Oh, second.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the motion. I heard the second, but I couldn't hear what the motion was.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Archambault recommended that we discontinue the contract for the help desk with Sharp. And Mr. Ortiz seconded that motion. So at this point, I will ask for discussion. Board members?
Let me speak to my motion. I think that, it was an effort to try and provide staff with some service. But it is very costly, and the use of it was minimal, and probably the use of it will continue to be minimal. And so I do not see it worthwhile to continue to expend $7,000 for additional months in the future. I think that our staff are capable of coming up with a solution.
Anything further, board members?
President Lee,
Yes, ma'am.
as I stated before, I have full confidence in Mr. Tafoya in knowing what his office or his department needs. And I always say, I don't know how many of you guys have experience with calling the help desk or calling someone and get put on hold, and so if we have the necessary and expert staff members, I agree that we should discontinue the help desk at least. I mean, that's $4,000 down the drain if you're only getting 2 calls per month. I mean, that's just too extravagant for a district. And we have better uses for that money elsewhere.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll just correct you on one little thing. It's actually $27,000 a
Okay.
month. The engineering portion is roughly 4,000. It can be a lot less, it could be a little bit more, but it is, my understanding is that it is hovering around that amount.
27,000.
27,000 is
Oh my
the
gosh.
help desk. Yes, ma'am.
I could buy a car with that.
Well, and
Yes, ma'am.
I commend you guys, cause you guys voted to do a 90-day trial.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And
Very much so.
now we've given it a shot.
Yes. All right, board members, any further discussion on this? All right, I will reiterate one more time. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Ortiz to discontinue the Sharp Help Desk contract. One last time, anything further?
Call.
All right. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. And now the quick one, the consent agenda. Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the consent agenda for the bills and expenditures for November 2024?
I recommend that we do approve to pay the bills for November of 2024.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
Walter, gotcha.
Second.
Perfect. It has been moved by Mr. Jaramillo and seconded by Mr. Ortiz to approve the consent agenda as listed, including the bills and expenditures report for November 2024. Roll call vote, Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. And now I'm going to read a brief statement. The board shall meet in executive session pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 10-15-1, H4 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss possible or pending litigation. No action will be taken and only the items listed will be discussed. Is there a motion to move to executive session as presented?
so moved.
Thank you. And is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to move to executive session as presented. No further discussion. Roll call vote, Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambeau,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daily,
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. The board will go into, has moved to executive session at 7:20 PM. We shall take a brief recess in order to get the executive session Zoom going and other needs. Right.
We all say what you're
We're full screen.
All right, I am going to note that only the items listed were discussed and no action was taken during our executive session. So we are now ready to have a motion to reconvene open session as presented. A motion, please.
Make a motion that we reconvene an open meeting act.
And a second, please.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Jaramillo and seconded by Mr. Ortiz to reconvene open session as presented. Ms. Sandoval, please, roll call.
Dr. Ashambo,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. The board has reconvened open session at 8:00 PM. Mr. Whitener, announcements.
We have a couple of important announcements. Next week, December 12th through 14th, is the NMSBA conference in Albuquerque. I do believe that Mr. Jaramillo, Dr. Archambault, and Mrs. Hunt Daly are all planning to attend that.
Wonderful.
On December 17th, Tuesday, December 17th, we will have our regular school board meeting. That'll be the one where we do our SEL recognitions and we have our future agenda items to work with. And then the district will be closed December 23rd through January 2nd for the winter holiday break. And then future agenda items.
I think we covered all of
We're
those
still gonna
pretty
need to
well.
talk about IPAC officers and how that works out.
Yes.
Tribal consultations, I wanna get those scheduled and get those meetings and keep you guys informed. We do need to work on our technology master plan, our facility master plan. And item number 4 there, we probably don't need to consider after tonight. So that's
Very good.
the items I have for future agenda items.
Excellent. Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation to adjourn?
I recommend that we adjourn this meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Is there a motion to adjourn? Everybody wants to stay all night. This is gonna be fun.
I make a
so
motion.
moved.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Dr. Archambault to adjourn the meeting as amended. We did have one amendment of the date. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Do I have to?
You wanna stay all night, huh?
Dr. Ashambo,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. The board adjourned at 8:03 PM. Thank you all very much for a productive meeting tonight.
Also-
Wagner,